Hello and welcome to the Century Hour. This is episode, as you listen to it, it'd be episode 3. I am still here with Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hi.
We were just talking about at the end of episode 2, we were talking about meeting the child's needs, and we had that excellent quote from, remind me who it was
Bill
from.
Nasson.
Yeah, and I suppose my follow-up question to that would be, do you think that schooling in general and education in general is failing a large proportion of our society then?
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking at, are you thinking about all people?
Well, I suppose that the more I'm associated with schooling, which don't get me wrong, I love my job, the more I question the curriculum as a whole, what they are quote unquote learning or not learning. So, for example, the things that personally I would have loved to have learned about when I was in school is how to open a bank account, what is a mortgage, you know, how do you pay for something on finance, how do you get a passport, a driving license, things like that, which I had no idea about. Like, you know, whereas they're the things that personally I would have liked. I mean, like for autistic students, I suppose, and students with special educational needs, I'm thinking more of the line of like emotional and social teaching and collaborative work, and also from in my position as well, I suppose one of the things that I've never been, which is quite difficult for some people and education professionals, teachers and things, is to ask for help. I was never ashamed to ask for help, and I think there's some really good external agencies that do some really good work, and there's some excellent educational psychologists and music therapists and play therapists and, you know, people like that. And I wonder if that should be more of a mainstay in schools, working with these special needs students, rather than off to English, you've got your TA with you.
Yeah, no, I think there's huge amounts missing. I mean, basically, if you kind of break down education, what it needs to be, it's equipping children, young people to become successful adults. And when you look at it that way, and you look at the curriculum, you see huge gaps in terms of, like you're saying, in terms of just those skills that you need to become a successful adult. I mean, I was reading somewhere where Aboriginal tribes people and Inuit children in those tribes are basically equipped to be adults at, I think it's like age 12.
Okay.
So they're fully functioning, they're fully skilled, and within the culture and society they live in, they are able at that age to be successful adults.
And I suppose they'll be active members of their community as
well.
well.
So they learn through practical stuff. They watch adults do their jobs, you know, whether that's, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know, that right. And I know it's much more complex, our society now, in terms of different jobs and roles and everything. But when you think about what they're learning, you know, what curriculum is built on, there's so many things there that you're sat. I mean, I know that for me personally, I'll talk personally where I just think, oh my God, that wasted time. You know, where I've sat learning something that I've never ever used again. Whereas I know, like, some people would argue against this, and that everything has a reason to learn it, but I honestly don't think it does. I mean, there's skills that I think you really need to know. I mean, number one, you know, I understanding, kind of like you're saying, emotions, how your brain functions, because having learned that as an adult, being able to use that's been massive. So when I went on the ELSA course, the Emotional Literacy Support Assistant course, which is all, you know, all the emotional literacy, understanding your brain, how that works, your emotions, that taught me a huge amount. I was learning that to teach kids, but I learned a huge amount as an adult. And I thought, Christ, if someone had taught me this, you know, as a child, some of those arguments I'd had, some of the wasted times that you've fallen out with someone, or the bad decisions you might have made, if I'd had a better understanding of how my brain and my mind worked, I would have had more control over, you know, those situations. Definitely, 100%. And then, like you say, kind of, you know, the money side of things, understanding money, finance, rental, whatever it is, and then and that's mainstream kids. That's neurotypical.
Yeah.
So you think what gaps for kids that haven't had, you know, good input as, you know, parental input. So, you know, that's lost now. There isn't the ability of staff to kind of fill that role that they're missing at home. So if they're neglected, you know, I think there were times in the past where there would be an adult that wasn't stressed and overburdened and having too many expectations on them, as well as the students having too many expectations. And then there's like, you know, it's, you know, the SATs, the tests, the rest of it. I think it puts enormous pressure on people, on staff, on students. It builds mental health issues.
So I'd say just to jump in quickly, in the mainstream school I'm at now, coming from a special school, I found it quite difficult to tune my brain back into mainstream expectations.
Yeah.
So, for example, a boy in my care, he pushed another student and then he pushed over a filing cabinet in my room. But then after that, he led in like a fetal position underneath a radiator in my room.
Yeah.
And it's because he was outside and it was raining to begin with. And someone came in and was like, this is out of order, you know, he's pushed over a filing cabinet. And I was like, it's only a filing cabinet, you know.
Yeah.
But from mainstream expectations, it's very different to what special education expectations are. And I think that is, you know, something that it's difficult to see that there are major expectations in different provisions. And I think that it's,
I mean, at the end of the day, we're dealing with society, and society is on a spectrum, you know, much like anything is on a spectrum. And if you're a mainstream school, then you need to be, you know, it needs to be about meeting the needs and understanding the need, and that's basically then as an educational, you know, provision, it's failing if you're not you know, meeting those needs and understanding and supporting them. And I think that's what's happening for a vast number of young people in school.
One of the things that we were a part of when we worked together was trips, and we got students out of school because there was, in my point of view, there's only so much someone can learn in the classroom anyway, because it's like you said with the Aboriginals and Inuits, even though it's on a smaller scale, they were out almost training their brain into these new skills, such as one of the things that I was quite passionate about when I worked within the special school and I taught and I was in charge of the curriculum for life skills, was taking them to shops and supermarkets. And even if it was just, we take £5 of petty cash and, right, you're in charge of getting flour, you're in charge of getting eggs, you're in charge of getting whatever, and we'll go together as a group. And even if it's someone pushing a trolley or putting the pound in the trolley to get the trolley, use a self-service scanner, you know, it's these skills that are going to always be there for the rest of their lives. And it's about, I suppose it's about exposure is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely. I mean, I've got the opportunity now. Obviously, I fought to identify the need, and then within you probably feel the same thing. So you identify the need, you can see what needs to happen, but then you have the restraints of everything that is the current kind of schooling provision, which is resources, money, expectations, rigid thinking sometimes, and you'll think, you know, you're desperately trying to push those boundaries. You know, there are enablers in school definitely who are like, I totally understand, we support you to do that, and they were fantastic. To get outside of that environment to give those different experiences. And now where I'm working now, alternative provision, I mean that's my kind of, that's what I do every day, which is amazing, which is an amazing situation to be in. So we have kids that have been excluded, you know, who aren't able to meet the requirements or expectations of any kind of provision. Maybe just mainstream, maybe they've been through PIU, maybe they've been through private, maybe they're out of provision, for whatever reason, numerous issues, and we're able to base our day around what we feel are their lagging skills, so we can build on whether that's at school or wherever a situation they're lacking kind of social interaction skills, so we can work on that, put them into situations.
So give me an example. So could you, for example, identify a need, and then what would be the process? Would you build days around specific groups or individuals, and would you take them to, say, I always hear stories from mainstream schools like, alternative provision, don't they just go to the cinema and bowl every day?
Yeah.
So what sort of things would you?
Yeah. So so you have an understand. So let's say like a group day. So I'd have a group of 3, and it would be myself.
Yeah.
And then you have to understand that those 3 young people aren't able to meet any expectations of school. So they're either bad to be excluded, or they've been excluded, or they've.
Would you group them with similar needs so you can meet the same needs, or is it a bit of a mix?
We try to, but obviously we have like 120 odd students, and the director tries to, and the other manager trying to, and we have discussions. It's really good. I mean, this is the other part of it, is where beginning of end of day, we have discussions, we have supervisions, we have debriefs to kind of work through what we think.
So it's a proper team effort then.
Oh, massive team effort, and we support each other. So yeah, I mean, I would build a program over a half term. So I'd have 3 students, and I'd think, right, okay, what's the common issue? What are the other extra issues that individual issues, and then basically try and meet the needs. And yeah, I mean, we will do some nice days out, but it's about motivating. It's about building self-esteem, because all these things are the things that are the issues. The motivation, the self-esteem, resilience, self-confidence, and it's all about building that in a social environment. Quite often, socially, they struggle. So you're building a small team together, you're experiencing new things together, and yeah, so you're just building skills, just how you see them fit, with lower expectations that school has, much lower.
Yeah.
In terms of academic expectations, but we're looking at it differently. There's an enormous amount that you can learn on a 5-hour day out, where you've got the travel, so you can talk about how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All skills that you need as an adult. Oh, hang on, there's a traffic jam. What should we do? Plus the fact you have 3 young people in a car for an hour. If you go into somewhere for an hour, they're a trapped audience. You know what I mean? You can talk an enormous amount. You can deal with issues that they have. They're more likely to talk about stuff that's bothering them, concerns. You've got, they're captive, so you can talk at them.
Yeah.
Tell them things that.
So all of the work that you're doing would basically underpin all this emotional and social stuff that you're doing. So you would tailor activities or tailor conversations around that sort of thing. So you would, is it your job to tease things out of them?
Yeah.
And then sort of guide them rather than this is the way it is.
And it's building the trust first, because you've got kids that come in who hate adults. I mean, their experience of adults is hugely negative.
Yeah.
From their own parents.
And would that be just because they haven't, quote unquote, met the needs of a certain provision or certain adults' expectations?
I mean, some of it is quite profound. So some of it is horrendous things that have happened to them.
Yeah.
So they are traumatized children, and and then we do get a mix, which is fab, and that's what I love about special school as well, because you kind of get a mix of kids, and they have to cope with that as well, because you might have a kid that is SEN mixed in with a group where they've grown up on the street, and they're like they're just like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and
I suppose
it's great learning for them.
I suppose you're moulding your own community then.
Yeah. There's definitely a community, massive positivity. The way that it's structured and the way that the directors created it is incredible in terms of support.
Yeah.
And like I said about the briefing so a briefing in the morning, get together, discuss the day, debrief at the end of every day, make sure it happens. So no one walks out that door thinking, I've had a bad day and I haven't been able to share it with anyone.
That's really rare, I would say, that you would get that sort of face-to-face time with your team to reflect on, well, this might not have worked today, how did you feel about it? Oh, maybe we do that next time. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And what do you think the way I sort of did it? Because then you can, I think one of the key things about working with any children is self-reflection, about reflecting on your day.
Definitely.
I did have a good point then. I was thinking about the activities that you did with the students then. So if you were to take them off-site and say, for example, you took them, I don't know, do you do things like go-karting and things like that?
Yeah.
So I suppose for a student that's been excluded from schools, had very negative experiences of adults, maybe home and school, that for you to take a student on what they would see as a treat, would you see a different side of the student, a different side of the child then, because you're opening them up to different experiences that they wouldn't have got?
And I think underpinning a lot of stuff for kids, you know, no matter what their issues are, is anxiety. And once you alleviate the anxiety, you're able to start having conversations, you know, because so much of adults and kids and stuff, anxiety is a huge stumbling block for whatever reason, and taking them somewhere exciting, somewhere that you know they're really interested in getting involved, that anxiety is just dropped. But we are careful to, you know, if it was karting one week, then it would be, you know, life skills the next week.
Yeah.
And then you know, kind of some other form of learning the next week, and then so, you know, you mix it in, you mix and match, and it is about meeting the needs. I mean, some young people I work with, you know, we probably have quite low budget because they just need to get out in nature.
Yeah.
You know, go and walk up Glastonbury Tor.
Nice.
Get to the top, look up there, talk. You know, how does that feel? You know, whatever. You know, it might be the type of kid that's stuck indoors playing gaming because they have high anxiety. They never leave the house.
So do you have them on dual placement, or they've fully with you to say, well, what's a normal school day, 9 till 3, Monday to Friday?
Yeah.
How would, say, I don't know if there is a typical timetable what you guys have.
Yeah, so they're referred to us from schools or whatever provision they're currently in, up to 2.5, 3 days, I think, is a maximum.
Okay.
Because it changes what we are as a provision. I think you have kids born 3 days, then you become a school.
Okay.
So they would come to us. They'd be taxied either from home or from the school to us for 9:30, and then spend the day with us till 2:30. Then get taxied home or school. So that's the day, yeah. And we do it built an enormous amount around nurture as well. So kind of you know, and I was involved in that. And the nurture group we had at the school I worked at, and there's similarities there where come in the morning, they can cook breakfast together, sit around the table together, kind of a raw mix of that kind of nurture group, youth centre-y kind of feel.
Yeah.
And then obviously the kind of alternative provision-y kind of activities and stuff. So it's a real positive mix for them. And obviously you get them at the beginning of the day and the end of the day as a big group. So all the groups are there.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the like real pushing of their ability to cope happens.
Start at the end of the days.
Yeah, because their environments with obviously other it's like throwing, like 100 chilies into a curry. It's quite a spicy mix when you got them all in there. So and you are very much led by their needs. So if you see someone's not coping, you have got, right, let's get out, let's go down, let's go down to the park, let's leave the base for a bit, let's find another way. And lots of things are like, you'll get someone who starts there, who gets aggressive with other pupils, and it's all anxiety and anxiety based. So you'll minimise their time in the base to start with, and you'll over the weeks you'll build that.
Yeah.
I've gone through times where someone doesn't manage more than 5 or 10 minutes, and then by the end of it they're in there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which then enables them in a school environment to then manage. So it's building skills.
And I suppose
self-confidence.
I suppose, as we said in the previous episode, that this is the stuff that schools need to put in place early intervention wise, then, isn't it? Because if they put this in early, and you can ease the anxiety, and you can get them having an understanding of who they are, how their brain works, then they're more willing, surely, to do the things that adults require of them, or be able to cope with that more.
Definitely,
yeah. So I'm just going to rattle through a couple of the questions, because last time we discussed loads of stuff and we went all over the place. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. At the alternative education provision where you're at, what is the mixture of staff like? Because we mentioned last time about Mendip House, where we spoke about the staff training and things like that. Obviously, you've got a real, like you said, like throwing loads of chilies into the mix. There's a lot of different characters there. Is there? I suppose my question is, the staff training, or are you hiring staff off the bat that have an extensive experience based around working with children?
I think
people.
I think the recruitment's been really, really clever in terms of who's been taken on, because it got a real mix of people there, and it's definitely been, I don't know, it works really well, and I'm sure it works because of the choice of staff there, even more so the support, because at the end of the day also, like, director is there, phone call, whatever, doesn't matter. Always doors open, you can just drop in. Also, interestingly, there is no SLT. Refuses SLT as a name, so everyone is considered on
level playing field,
because we all have our own importance.
And you bring your own skills into the mix as well, I suppose.
So yes, there has to be a director who makes decisions, but that doesn't make him more important. And he'll explain it doesn't make him more important than someone on the front line dealing with complex students. So that's really, it's a really good, so you never feel there's never any feeling of it's just a very safe, structured environment where you're supported. You've got that whole routine of, so that, I think that's massive. If they were to use that, imagine if the Mendip House, if they had with a senior staff member to debrief at the end of each day how quickly maybe some of these issues would have arisen. So what did you do at the management of that, and awareness of what's going on, speaking to staff, that wouldn't happen, would it?
No.
I'm pretty sure.
I
someone
agree.
would probably raise it and go, do you know what? While you're here, I saw John, being a bit odd with so and so.
Yeah, and I think that is basically what we've spoke about, the thread throughout our hour plus conversation through 2 episodes, is that the training needs to be there to help people, even though people might have a passion and people might have a basic understanding, until you're in front of that first student. You know nothing really.
No.
You step in front of that person and they're teaching you. And it isn't until you've worked with many people, like in the special school we worked at, there was nearly 100 students, and I'd say, I had a good understanding of 95% of them. But I don't think that necessarily I would have been the right person to support 95% of them. You'd have your core students that you have your skill set with, and 8, 9 or 10 of them, that if you go in, you'll be able to diffuse the situation quite quickly. And I think that, again, it all comes back to training, I suppose, and funding, and it's just something that there's a lack of at the moment, I suppose.
Definitely, yeah.
Throughout all of society.
Yeah.
So, what I have got to hear about the National Autistic Society just before we wrap up, because your children are going to bed. I can hear that they're getting, and I know that you'll be anxious to go
that's fine,
tuck them in. Is something I read that the National Autistic Society were trying to pass is a universal curriculum around autism.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the basics around that. I don't know, I haven't done an extensive reading behind it. It just twigs something in my head that they're thinking that there could be a curriculum around teaching children with autism. Now, I'm not necessarily against something like that, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily for something like that, because, as you will know, and a lot of other people will know, parents and people that work in with autism and other special needs daily, is that no day is the same.
Yeah.
No lesson is the same. No hour, no minute can be the same when working with them. It can be very high 1 minute, low the next minute, and you're trying to meet the needs. So I just wonder what you would think around if there was a universal autism curriculum that needed to be followed.
Yeah.
What would your thinking?
I mean, my reflection on having taught lessons is, and then having kind of my role in the education provision now, is that when you overplan things, you get focused on what you're hoping to achieve from the lesson. So you have your preconceived, in your house that evening before you go, whenever you've done your planning, you've got your preconceived, and you spent 2 hours doing your planning, however long it's taken. You walk into that classroom, you've got your preconceived ideas of what needs to be done and how it should look, and therefore there's a couple of things that happen there. When you're dealing with kids that aren't sometimes in the right place to learn, your stress levels are going to go up, because you're like, I spent 2 hours doing this, or do you know what I mean? So I think sometimes prescribed planning and stuff like that. So if it was really prescribed and it has to be this way and stuff, that'd be the only negative side to it. It would be that maybe it's not allowing, like you're saying, allowing for
the flexibility that's needed, really.
Yeah, because sometimes I don't know what it would look like. I mean, if it was really, it'd be great if it was like a skeleton. These are kind of things you need to cover, and you're going to do the emotional side. You're going to do learning about your brain and kind of your life skill stuff, and you kind of, it was quite open to for a teacher, to interpret the way they want to, the way they feel that their set group or student or whatever that is needs to take it on. Then that would be quite positive, I think.
Yeah.
Because if it is, if it's with an understanding of autism as a base, rather than just trying to follow loosely the national curriculum. Yeah. It could be
another thing, again, just before we wrap up, is I've heard lots of times through working in different education provisions for around 10 years, is that the main thing I hear back from teachers is they say that they don't feel they can build the relationship with children with special needs, autism, Down syndrome, whatever it is, because they feel they need to cater for a larger audience. So then that means that person should then work with a TA, and that TA is the person that builds up the relationship. Now, I don't know where your thinking is behind it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what it would be, but from my point of view, one-to-one TAs aren't sustainable, and they shouldn't be done long term. It should be a team of people that works around a student, because not only is it too much to be on one person, what if that person's off sick, or what if that person's away, but also there's only so much that one person can give you knowledge and emotional and social wise, and you can pick those bits up from lots of different people. So just before I get your answer, one of the things that I do in my job now, which I get told by my superiors that I'm going to put myself out of the job, which is essentially when I feel the child is ready to be taught by other people, or have a team of TAs around them to do more one-to-one work or something, that is when I give them the legs or the wings and say, this is your team. These are the people that's going to work. I'm still going to be here. I'm like the anchor. I'm always going to be around. But now this person's going to do food tech with you because actually they're amazing at food tech, and I burn toast, you know. So this way you can work with this person. You're going to work with this person in science because they're amazing at all the experiments. You do lots of tests and things. I can't do that because I don't really understand it. But I'm going to still be here to do these things. I found that works really well. It isn't really understood by a lot of people because they think, you know, that works well. Let's just keep it that way. But I'm more of a let's push things on if we can.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think, you know, it's always development and progress, isn't it? I mean, there's, you know, I guess initially. So, yeah, I mean, initially, potentially a one-to-one is really important to get through that door and have consistency. You know, there are the negative sides of you know, if someone's off sick, how do they cope with that? But sometimes if someone isn't able to build up a larger scale social interaction or cope with more than, you know, one kind of adult and build that trust up with. I mean, that's what I do, I suppose, in the provision. I am a kind of a 1-to-1 or 1-to-3. I do 1-to-1 work as well, and it's really beneficial as a starting point.
I suppose it's what the child needs.
Skills.
Then is what you.
It's building the skills up. I mean, because you had 1-to-1, didn't you? And you can see the progression. I'd love to work in a school one day. I've never done it. Sole 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Just to see progression and see how that goes, just to get that.
So I have 4 students, and that is kind of what I do at the moment. So I have complete control in curriculum. I have complete control in what people work with them at what times. Timings of lessons. If they need downtime after in between lessons or a little bit of time after lunch, I can build that into the timetable. I can build in ed psych time. So it is really positive because as you're saying, you can see that progression. And because you're in control of that's your small world, I also do things like charts for myself, just colour code them and just go, well, green, look at these greens, that way where it goes well, but red, that's where there was a small an incident. Well, actually, there's a red in that maths lesson, then maths again. Oh, okay. Now you can build up a bigger picture.
It's identifying things in place. Definitely. That's where you need to identify where the issues are happening, and you know, and like go back to Ross Green again. That, you know, building that, identifying the issues, understanding the lagging skills, and then addressing them, problem solving. And then building a strategy to, or you know, whatever it looks like to. What you need
is an understanding school, and I think that schools can be, as we said in the last episode, sometimes they can be a little bit resistant to do things that is only for a small group of children or one child.
That's an issue
to try and adapt. And that is the difficulty.
Lacking funds massively.
And things are being cut left, right, and centre. For example, with the current school that I'm in, there was a meeting the other day where they said that county had stopped the funding of a certain student off the back of a report they received, but they haven't come in to see the student once, and they've just provisionally stopped it, and it takes 6 months again to review it, and it's all because it's working now. There's a reason why it's working now.
Totally.
And I think that's the difficulty. It's almost pinch pennies here, there, and everywhere, and eventually the system will fail or won't work as effectively as it can. I think that's maybe what we're seeing now.
Definitely.
Right. Is there anything you want to add before we finish? Because we've been going for quite a while. And to be fair, I'm pretty tired. I don't know what you just talking about stuff for ages.
No, there's plenty. We could carry on talking forever, couldn't we?
We could do. I think what we'll do is we'll meet up again in a few months when we're straightening our thoughts out, because I knew what this would be like. It would be, we've got our script and we've got our questions, and then after about 5 minutes it's all out the window because we've covered everything, but it's just in drips and drabs. And I think that, I mean, what I wanted to get across with the interview with you is actually for parents and teachers, but especially parents, that there is no right or wrong way, and you know there is help out there, and there's different routes, like the the alternative education provision, and schools should be really doing as much as they possibly can to meet the needs of the child. And if they don't feel like the school's meeting their needs, if they've just been given a TA, for example, or they've just been thrown in and said, oh, well, let's just wait and see what the sort of issues or behaviours that come out and look like, I think that parents have a lot of power, shall we say, to say, actually, I expect more, and
massively.
We should be doing more to meet the needs, because school shouldn't be one size fits all. And as we said, the curriculum isn't exactly flexible at the moment with, for example, under this Conservative government now, GCSEs are full exams. There's no coursework, and if there is, it's a very small amount besides art. So it's one test, year 11, that's it. And I'm not sure who that caters for, if I'm honest, because when I was at school, I crumbled in exams. What in my job, which is one of the things that I don't like doing, I have to prepare these boys to sit and do an exam. And you're doing it bit by bit. You're not calling them exams, calling them assessments, calling them bits of work. And you know, when it comes to them sitting down and doing it, I'm not sure if that's going to be the most appropriate way for them to do it, but that's the way that it's expected at the moment.
And going back to that Bill National quote in the last podcast, in terms of, you know, we need neurodiverse people, and only one type of person can sit an exam and excel at it. And we both know, I mean, I was a terrible revision and trying to remember things. I know my brain doesn't work that way, but it works other ways. And then there's, you know, someone in my village up the road who failed everything, but has his own business, his own house, his own vehicle. You know, so it's not catering for everyone. It's catering a very small amount. And it's not realising how amazing everyone is.
No, and I think that's the thing. Like, everyone has their talents. It's just about letting them have a go. Have a go at different things. And as you were saying with your place of work at the moment, it sounds like you're providing opportunities that these children were just not given for one reason or another. So, anyway, and that's great. Thanks, Nick.
Cheers, Dave.
I enjoyed that. So then, back home now, after having a very informative chat with Nick there. I think that having any discussion with Nick on autism or educational special needs is just amazing, and I love discussing things with Nick like that. I think that you guys will get a great deal out of what Nick had to say. Hopefully take a few tidbits away with you as well, like the authors he suggested, or some of the strategies he suggested, and anything like that really. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed that podcast. If you want to join in the discussion, then you know where we are at the Century Hour on Twitter. If you could like and follow and subscribe, you know, to the podcast on iTunes, that'd be fantastic. Leave me a review, leave me a little comment, because obviously this is going to be very much led by you guys, the public, and what you guys are after, what sort of information you would like and require. I hope we've touched on a few things like Mendip House and things like that are going on in society at the moment. And you know, I have great fun always speaking to Nick, so hopefully the pod will continue, and we'll continue to give amazing bits of advice like Nick's done today. I've got a few more interviews coming tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, so very busy. These will all be in your ears in March 2018 and beyond. So yeah, I've been David Demakin, and thank you very much for listening, and follow me at the Century Hour, join in the discussion, and I'll see you soon.